I made my client $8,000 in 1 hour with a room of only 28 people. We did this without any ads or any SMS, and on top of that, the group that we were marketing to had been dead for a couple months. Today I'm going to show you the full blueprint of what we did for this launch, and by the end of this video, you'll see that the size of your audience doesn't matter when you're launching a new offer. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to be completely transparent with you that what I'm showing you today is only about 20% of what went into doing this build, and the other 80% is what I keep between me and my clients. But that 20% alone is enough for you to change how you launch your next offer and enough for you to implement straight after this video. So let's just get straight into it. So before he even came to me with this idea, he had a low ticket offer that actually worked, and in 2 years he made around $80,000 total from it. And you might be thinking, if it was already working, why would he even switch? But the thing is, more yeses on a cheap offer usually comes with more headaches, more churn, lower quality clients, and on top of that, a lower ceiling on how much revenue you can make. So you're not going to be able to make as much money as you might want to. And because of all this stuff, he learned the hard way, and he grew tired of dealing with these type of clients, and he ended up just shutting the whole program down. Now from there, his entire program sat dead, including the Telegram, which was the only marketing channel that we were able to use throughout this entire promotion. So coming into this, knowing that low ticket wasn't ideal, what we decided to do was rebuild his entire offer around high ticket and rebuild the entire backend for him from scratch. But even before we could build anything, we came into this already understanding that his audience was mainly low ticket buyers, meaning lower intent to move on something higher ticket and not the ideal client that we were actually building out this entire system for. So we had to set up our heat-seeking missile. The point of this being, what was the highest quality of buyer that we could pin in this crowd and find. And after some past audience research, we were able to find our target. And our target ended up being people who were already in successful careers and wanted this to work on the side. And being able to understand the market, we knew that this person was logical. So the entire system up to the webinar had to be built around logic. The first lever we had to pull when it came to rebuilding this entire launch was reactivating his list of leads that he already had. The list of people that came to our conversion event, they weren't completely cold, but they were people who were already sitting in his group chat. And it was the group chat that he left for dead. And most coaches usually think that dead leads are just leads that won't convert anymore. But the thing is, that's not the truth. They already trusted you once, so you can make them trust you again. And a proper system is exactly what's going to be able to wake that trust up again. And basically what this re-nurturing process was just 5 days of promo before our webinar. But we only allowed opt-ins for 4 of those 5 days. The main reason being, we didn't want to return to this group chat and just look desperate. So for the first day of promo, we decided to tease what was coming. This would increase engagement, and on top of that, my client would be able to stay top of mind for these people that were in this group chat. And when it actually did come time for us to promote the webinar, we didn't want to frame it as a pitch. So what we did was we framed it as a prerequisite. Now for our next lever, it was the landing page. And the whole point of this being, we wanted to control consumption as much as possible. So what we did was we stripped it down to one purpose. And that one purpose being to push action, with the action being the opt-in. And the point of it wasn't to look impressive, because this funnel was ugly as hell. But it was to be able to control the action of our consumers before they even hit the webinar and have them plan to exactly what we wanted. And we always like to frame the copy of our webinar funnel headlines as learn how the ICP can get X result using the offer owner's unique mechanism without the common issues that our ideal client would face. Now if we go through exactly what we wanted our ideal client to do, the first thing we wanted them to do was opt in. Then from there we wanted them to self-nurture and format it as due diligence. So this would be them going through the FAQs and nurturing themselves to actually get closer to the offer owner before even getting into the webinar, and convict themselves on him and the mechanism before they even got to the conversion event. With this process, we'd be able to make the sale happen before they got to the training. And once they did opt in, we added in a VIP upsell, with the whole point of this being to filter out the highest intent leads before they even got to the webinar. And this was a $37 tier that gave them access to a PDF on how they can implement something small before they got to the webinar, with the video walkthrough alongside a prop firm discount. And on top of that, he offered an implementation call with him personally, walking them through how they'd be able to apply this to their exact situation. Now, the narrative of the whole call was to be able to understand who our client was, and then to be able to upsell them into the high ticket offer. And once again, like I said, we used the VIP upsell to pull the highest intent buyers out of the audience before the webinar even started. But once it was time for them to hop on the call after the webinar, they'd be double nurtured and even higher intent than they were before they bought the VIP upsell. Also, shameless plug, but if you're finding value from this video so far and you are looking to launch an offer, or you already have an offer that would benefit from having all these systems in place so far, with the first link in the description, you can book a call with me and we can map out exactly how we'd be able to improve your offer. So all of that brings us to the next lever that we pulled to be able to convict our audience before the webinar, which was going to be the nurture step. And basically what this was us setting up multiple touch points every single day. This was value dense emails for the people who opted into the webinar, in the Telegram group chat, receiving the testimonials and the value dense piece of content, which would always get the sharpest promo since it was our main channel of marketing. And the testimonials that we did use to push to the group chat were deliberately targeted to our ideal client, which was successful workers wanting trading to work on the side. Doing this, they'd be able to see themselves in the results and make the testimonials hit even harder. And the proof that his mechanism specifically worked would be undeniable. And towards the end of this video, you'll see exactly why using these testimonials were able to work so well in attracting our ideal client. And just so you can have an idea of what this promo funnel looked like. You can see here that we were subtly calling out our ideal client. Here we were dropping that one of his past successful students was a doctor. And you can see that we were just weaving it throughout the entire message so that it can continue to call out our ideal client. Now when it came to the actual webinar, which was the time for us to convert, we crafted it out specifically for our ICP. Since these are people who are successful in the career and they're pretty busy already, we made sure to keep the webinar as short as possible. And the way we structured it was for the webinar to open, and we would agitate the problem, build authority in my client, and teach them real tactics and prove that what he's teaching actually works and present the offer. But before we even presented the offer, we had to kill all objections and then create the sale from there. And the biggest lever that we pulled throughout his entire webinar was that we cut his origin story down. And standard advice for webinars will usually tell you that you have to weave in your story and sell to people on emotion. But we knew that wasn't a good idea with the ideal client that he had in mind. The crowd that he wanted was older and they were already successful in the career. So a 20-something-year-old explaining how he got into trading in college wasn't going to land as relatable. So instead of trying to force a connection between the offer owner and his crowd, what we did was we trained them to respect the information, the real value, and no fake narratives throughout this entire webinar. And that's only a move you can pull when your ICP is dialed in and you understand that you're completely confident in your marketing. For the pitch, we had to lock in because we understood that his audience was coming from a low ticket offer. You can see here that we're calling out specifically who our ideal client is at this point and who isn't. Even if that meant we got fewer calls, what we wanted was the ones who actually got on the calls to be qualified and be high intent to move into the offer. And when it was time for the pitch, we had already retained 89% of the room. So we didn't want to just drop a calendar link and let anybody book. So we ran everyone through a qualifying form first for two reasons. Reason number one being that his audience was still wide for low ticket offers, so we had to filter out as hard as possible. Reason number two being just because somebody's interested in the offer doesn't mean that they have the ability to pay. And a sales call with someone who can't move on the offer isn't worth anybody's time. It's just going to be a waste of time for both sides. When it came time to actually convert, and once we got people on these sales calls, we were able to collect $8,000. And this was from a promo that only made it to 127 people. Only 46 people registered from that promo, and almost 61% of those opt-ins ended up actually showing up live. This was a semi-cold, low-intent audience that showed up at a rate that most warm lists never even hit. From that room, he was able to close two people. One person on a $5,000 tier and a second person on a $3,000 tier. Both of them paid in full. So that's a low-ticket audience upgrading themselves into high-ticket buyers in literally just 1 hour of work for the offer owner. And what makes that number hit different is that none of this ran on ideal conditions. Because realistically, $8,000 really isn't much. But we have to keep in mind that his audience was low-ticket buyers, there was no SMS, and on top of that, we had zero ad spend behind any of it. So we were able to make $8,000 off for dead lead list and a handicap launch. These closes weren't just anybody, but they were exactly his ideal clients, being already successful professionals. And even if we go to the Fathom transcript and see the people who actually closed, you can see that one said he owns a hospice startup and the second one was a GI doctor, meaning we were able to filter for exactly his ideal client and bring in people who were actually ready to move because we fully understood how to market to his ICP. The whole reason why this worked is because we went against what a lot of marketers like to preach, that you always have to sell on emotion. At the end of the day, it literally just comes down to understanding your audience, because there's a time and place for emotional selling, but the ideal client for him was logical people, so that wouldn't make sense. We played off of the logic by making it information dense enough that they walked away understanding exactly how the model works and enough proof to know it works, with the whole basis of this being that the free knowledge was enough to justify them showing up, but not so much detail that anyone could just go and build it for themselves. And that's exactly how every single webinar should be built. Whether you're selling on emotion or logic, you want to give away enough that the paid version feels like the obvious next step. You want to hold back enough that doing it alone feels like the harder, slower way, and on top of that, the stupider way for your audience to go ahead and try to do it for themselves. And just to break down, 2 years on the old model made him $80,000, but 1 hour built around a completely different system made him more than 12% of that with a tiny audience. The takeaway of this isn't the funnel we ran, it's not the size of his audience either, but it's the actual system that we implemented underneath both of those things. Which is exactly why your funnel isn't what's holding you back and exactly why your audience count isn't either. And if you're an offer owner that's grinding low ticket or you got a system that's not working like you want it to, meaning number one, you're spending too much of your time with people you don't even want to work with. Number two, you're not making the money that you actually want to be making. And number three, you're not giving your clients the results you know you're capable of if they were paying you what you're actually worth. And if you're serious about fixing all those problems, you can book a call with me with the link in the description and we'll walk through your full offer and break down exactly how we'd be able to optimize it for you. I appreciate you watching this video and I hope you can implement some of this stuff and make yourself a whole lot more money.